Okay, welcome back. Today we are looking at 3.13, our simple interest, our last lesson of our unit. And we've got two vocabulary words that we're going to look at before we get started. The first one, of course, being simple interest. And that's because we are going to just be dealing with simple interest this year. There is something that most banks, or actually credit cards, things like that, will charge. Is called complex or compound interest. This is simple interest. And this is the interest that actually is paid for the use of money. So when you put your money in the bank, you'll notice about every month or every 3 months, you will see a little extra money put into your bank account for doing nothing other than just letting the bank hold your money and use it. So simple interest is that interest, that extra money that has to be paid for the use or borrowing of money. The next vocabulary word we're looking at is principal. And principal, even though it's spelled the same as, the principal of a school, this is actually talking about the amount of money that someone is borrowing or investing. So there is a nice little formula that we talk about. And the formula for simple interest is when we take our interest, or define the interest, the extra money that's being paid, we're going to find that by taking the principal, and that again is the amount that's being borrowed or invested. We multiply that by a rate, which is the percent, and we multiply that by the time, and we calculate that using years. I would say 95% of the time it's calculated in years, but you do have to read the problem and the situation, but years is what we're going with. So that gives us the formula. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time. PRT. So that's the formula we're going to be using today. So let's go ahead and look at our first problem here. And example 1 is going to be very much like numbers 1 to 3 on the homework worksheet if you are in the class. And this is asking you to find the interest paid on the investment. So if you had, for problem A here, $14,500 extra that you're able to put in and invest, meaning you're just leaving it there, whether it's a CD or some kind of investment, but this investment is going to pay you 7% for the use of your money, and you leave it there for 5 years. How much is the interest? How much money are they going to pay you for letting them borrow that money or for you investing it into their product? So first thing we always do before you even get started is you are going to change the time into years. You always want to look at the time first. And here I can see that is already in years, so I can leave it that way. That looks perfect. Next, we're going to, for each problem, write that interest formula that we talked about. I equals PRT. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time. Now, we're going to go ahead and change the variables to known values. Let's see if we know, and we're going to replace it. So interest, that I don't know the interest. That's what we're trying to figure out. So that's going to have to stay I. Principal, how much are you investing? Well, you're investing that $14,500. The rate, they did tell me the rate. They said it was going to be a 7% rate. And the time, they did tell me that as well, and that was for 5 years. Now we're going to go ahead and change any percent to a decimal by dividing by 100. So we're going to take that 7% and we're going to divide by 100 to get that 0.07. Now you've seen that I showed my formula. I showed changing the variables to the known value. I showed that I changed the percent to a decimal. So since I showed all my work, it says here, solve. And I can use the calculator if I showed all the work. And I did. So let's put into that calculator 14,500 times 0.07 times 5, and it shows that I have made interest $5,075. So for doing nothing other than letting someone use my money and leaving it there for 5 years, they will pay me $5,075 for the use of my money. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. Again, first thing we need to look at is our time. Notice this time is not in years. It says months. So I have to change that. Well, how many years is 6 months? Exactly. 6 months is half a year. So I'm going to change this to 0.5 years. You have to make sure that your time is in years before you start. Now that it is, I can begin my step 1, which is to write down that interest formula. I equals PRT. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time. Now let's go ahead and put in any variable that I know we're going to change it. So did they tell me what the interest is? No, that's what you're trying to figure out. So it's going to stay I cannot change it. P, did they tell me how much money I'm investing? Yes, they did, $5,400. R, what rate are they going to pay? 8%. Time, how much time am I allowing them to use my money? 6 months, but we know that is 0.5 years. Now we are going to make sure that we change that percent to a decimal. So that 8%, dividing that by 100, changes that to 0.08. So now I've got interest is $5,400 times that 0.08 times that 0.5. And I did show all my work. I showed that formula. I showed the substitution of changing variables to my values. I showed changing the percent to a decimal. So using a calculator and multiplying that out, I get $216. So by allowing them to borrow my money or use it in an investment for half a year, 6 months, at 8% interest, I will have earned $216. But now, that doesn't mean that's how much they give me back. That is just the extra money that I got paid for them using it. So looking at example 2, we're going to be asked to find the balance. And this is where numbers 4 to 5 on the worksheet that I'm going to give you comes into play. Again, finding the balance means how much money do you actually now have? The balance. So when I say I've got $1,400 I'm going to invest at a 10% rate for 9 months, how much money will it look like in my account when this time is done? So we're going to go ahead and again, following example 1 means I can't even start until I look at the time. Right now, 9 months is not in years. So we're going to change that 9 months. And 9 months is 3/4 of a year, or 0.75 years. And we're going to then write out the formula, because now I can get started. I equals PRT. Interest is the principal times the rate times the time. Let's change those variables now to different values that I know. I do not know how much interest they're going to pay me, so that's I. Principal, yes, I do know how much I'm investing. That's $1,400. Times, I do know the rate. That's 10%. Times, I do know the time. That's 0.75. Again, I can't do any multiplying while I have a percent, so I'm going to change that percent to a decimal. And that will then give me I equals my $1,400 times 0.1 or 0.10 times that 0.75. I've showed all my work, so using my calculator, I should be able to find my interest for being able to use my money is $105. Now that is not my answer. It says the balance. Remember, interest is just the extra amount that they have to pay you for actually borrowing or using your money. So now we need to find the balance. And that balance is when we go ahead and add the principal and the interest together. So that balance is going to be, how much money did you allow them to use? $1,400. How much did they have to pay you for using it for 9 months? $105, which means if you looked at that bank account at the end, you will have had, or you shall have, $1,505. That's the amount of money that you now have. Your $1,400 turned to $1,505 in only 9 months. So that's what the balance means. Make sure you do review the notes because that's what we're going to be working on in class. Any questions, of course, you can bring those with you. Otherwise, I'll see you